So the number of digital nomads in 2018 was 4 million. Today, that number has grown exponentially to 35 million digital nomads. And if you actually look at the number of digital nomads by population all around the world, they would actually be the 41st largest country by population. That's right. 35 million digital nomads. So today we're actually going to be talking about why that's grown so quickly, why you need to join them fast while the national borders are potentially still even open. And we're also going to be actually discussing why this is very important to be looking at, because as more and more digital nomads leave their countries, like we can see is happening on an exponential trend, this is going to change how your Western government, like your Australian government, America, the UK, or your New Zealand government, is going to treat you. So we're going to get there, but let's first having a look at this exponential chart. You guys can see how insane the growth has been of digital nomads all around the world. 2018, 4.8 million digital nomads. Next year, in 2019, we had 7.3 million digital nomads. So in that year alone, we saw 52% growth. Absolutely incredible. The next year, 2020, we had 11 million digital nomads. This was a 49% increase on the year before. Fast forward to 2021, we got 15.5 million nomads. Again, a 42% increase. We had a little bit of a slower year in 2022, only a 9% increase. But then we had a whopping year in 2023. The number of nomads jumped from 17 million to 35 million. This was an increase of 107% in 1 year alone. And I feel like 2024, when we get all of the data, it's going to be another massive year for the rise of digital nomads. The reason for that is actually because, well, you guessed it, governments are acting crazy. So I want to actually have a look at this website. For those who, we're going to be looking at the most popular nomad cities. And we're also going to be firstly explaining what even a nomad is, because there's a lot of confusion around that term. So we can see here, digital nomad is someone who works and earns their living entirely online without going to a physical office. What sets digital nomads apart from remote workers is that they are constantly moving away and typically work remotely from a foreign country. Okay, this is a big, thing that needs to be said. A lot of people say, Luke, that 35 million digital nomad number you're talking about doesn't really mean a lot, because a lot of people included in that number are just remote workers, people who live in California and they, work for a Californian-based office 20 minutes down the road. Some people will say, just because I do my Friday work session remotely at home, that counts me as a digital nomad. Well, it doesn't, okay? That does not count as a digital nomad. We can see very clearly a digital nomad is someone who actually lives in a different country. Now, this is important for a number of reasons, okay? The reason why is because, firstly, the trend is growing exponentially, but it's also because of how much money digital nomads make. So we can see by this website here, 34% of all nomads make at least $50,000 to $100,000 every single year. So again, that's massive. And 36% of all nomads earn between $100,000 and $250,000. Okay. Now, this is important to recognize. We've got a really cool little chart here as well, showing us the amount of money that these nomads make. Now, this is important because what do you think governments are going to do when the people who pay the most taxes and earn the most amount of money go and live in a different country? Well, this is going to have dire consequences for those people who decide to stay in Australia or stay in New Zealand or America or the UK or any Western country that is sitting on a lot of debt, okay? The government, it has too much debt. Governments all around the world today have more debt today in 2024 than they had in the 1940s during World War II, okay? The government has to pay the debt, and if the people who pay all of the taxes to the government leave that country, what's going to happen? The government's going to have to try and squeeze more money out of the poor citizens that are deciding not to become nomads and stay in their over-indebted Western government. It's just maths. It's just how it works, okay? Now we can see that this is already beginning to happen. So in California, we can see here they're suffering, wow, 400,000 people leaving the country every single year. Leaving the state. 400,000 people are leaving California. And this is why we're seeing really crazy ideas being talked about in US politics. So we can see here unrealized capital gains tax survives the US Supreme Court. So recently in the US, many politicians have begun talking about the idea of unrealized capital gains tax. And we can see that on June 20th, literally 2 days ago, this idea was debated in US Congress. So we can see here in a long awaited ruling, the United States Supreme Court affirmed the constitutionality of a mandatory repatriation tax introduced by the Tax Cuts and Job Act. Okay, so that's a mouthful. And again, I think this is deliberately, worded in a way that would scare a lot of people off from wanting to look into what's actually happening. But you can see this is an unrealized capital gains tax, and US Supreme Court found that this does not exceed Congress's constitutional authority. Okay, so that means it's constitutional. This is what the US Supreme Court just found this week. So you know what that means? They are, paving the road, so to say, for an unrealized capital gains tax in America. But we can see this is crazy because Americans overwhelmingly reject Biden's plan to tax unsold assets. Look at this. This is Biden's plan. Again, look at the timeline of this article, April 2024. This is a hotly debated topic right now in the space. But it's not just happening in America. We can also, I'm going to talk about Canada and the UK in a moment, but I want to talk about what a government's potential move might be to combat digital nomads. So if people leave the country who are paying a lot of taxes, what you also see a government do is they just open up their borders and they let everybody flow into the country because these people are going to come to work, and now the government can tax these new people, these new immigrants. And it's not a surprise that if you look at all of the Western countries around the world, the ones with the highest debt loads also have a lot of immigrants. Okay, look at Canada, look at Australia. Oh my God, there's a lot of immigrants in Australia. I have a lot of Indian friends. I believe there's like 1 million Chinese people in Australia, which is like something like 5% of the population. A lot of Pakistanis, a lot of Sri Lankans. There's a lot of immigrants in Australia, and that's because we have a massive debt bubble. Okay, but immigration is one way a government actually, deals with this debt load. But we can see here, Canada's surging cost of living fuels reverse immigration. Okay, so this is another reason why we're seeing all of these nomads pop up. Cost of living in the West is simply too expensive for most people. They don't want to live in these over-indebted countries that have open border policies letting in who knows what sort of people, okay? America used to have very strict laws on who they let in the country, but not anymore. They've just left the southern border wide open. Who could be crossing the border? Who knows? But again, people living in these Western countries are sick of these policies, and especially policies like this. Recently, Justin Trudeau talked about the possibility of a 66% capital gains rate for those earning over $250,000. Now, I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, oh, but, it's only for the rich. It is, it's only for the rich. But, this is how it begins, okay? First, they come for the rich, and then they come for everyone, okay? Who remembers that all the way back in 1913, before the Federal Reserve was created, there was no federal income tax. Today, it's like 20, 30, 40%. It's massive, okay? We can see here, so the Feds raised capital gains inclusion rate to 66.6% for high earners, starting in 3 days' time, okay? This is why I wanted to do the live stream when I'm doing it. This is all happening now, okay, which is crazy. And this is why people are moving and leaving at breakneck speeds. We might actually get producer Pam to come and talk to us about this specific chart. I'm going to be showing you guys in a minute. We can see here that the best cities for digital nomads include hotspots like Thailand, Portugal, Spain and Argentina. And Pam has actually traveled with me to Portugal, Spain, and Argentina. We're in Spain right now. So I wanted to ask her, this is the two digital nomads on the run. So I want your opinion, Pam. Jump on, maybe you can jump over here. Maybe it'd be easy for you to talk in front of the microphone. The mic's really low. Tell the people, what do you think, which country, Argentina, Spain, or Portugal, has the highest amount of digital nomads?
Well, I will say Spain first, because if we compare with Argentina, Spain so it's a big country and also have more cities that are touristic places than Argentina is. For example, we have different other cities in Spain, just not Madrid, just not Buenos Aires in Argentina, but also that's a point to many digital nomads come to Spain, because they have different other architecture, cities, and cultures around Spain. So it's very interesting and unique to stay in Spain and move around all those cities.
That's actually a great point. Now, I surprised producer Pam. I didn't tell her she's going to be on camera. So I'm surprised that you actually come up with an answer that good. That's a great point. Because in Madrid, you're right. In Spain, you're right. It's not just Madrid. There's also a ton of other really popular digital nomad hotspots in Spain. So you have Madrid. Barcelona is a very popular one. Even the place that we were going to go yesterday, Toledo. Yeah. I've heard other nomads talk about Toledo, and this is very different to Argentina. In Argentina, everybody's just focused on the capital city, Buenos
Aires.
There you go. That's how you say it.
And of course, Patagonia. That's one of the most important places in Argentina. But in Spain, you have more places and also different cultures around those places. For example, we know that Spain is just not a Spanish language. We also have a different other language here in Spain. Something that it's not very unique with Buenos Aires.
See, all of the cultures all of the cultures in Spain are very unique. That's a great point. Now, what do you think about Portugal? So we briefly talked about Portugal. I want to know, did you think there's many nomads there?
To be honest, yes. I'm gonna guess, because we didn't spend a lot of time in Portugal and compare with Argentina and Spain. But one interesting thing that I remember about Portugal, Spain, and Argentina, that also they have a digital nomad visa. So that's a point for these kind of places, that they give you the opportunity to stay more than your tourist passport let you stay in a country. For example, you can stay more than a year, depending of the country. But that's one of the things that Portugal right now it's getting more involved in the digital nomad world.
Another great point. You surprised me once again. That's also a great point. Portugal does have that digital nomad visa, and I was not even going to mention that. So you're 100% correct. Now, caveat, we didn't actually go to the popular nomading spot, which is obviously Lisbon. Is that the capital? I think it's the capital city.
Yeah, that's the capital city.
So we only went to Madeira, and maybe that's a lesser known digital nomad hotspot. But we still saw a few there. There are a lot of Bitcoiners there. Let's have a look at the chat. McLovin says, hi, Luke and Pam. This is actually the first time you get to say hello to someone in the chat.
Hello.
Pam says hello. We got Dan in the chat as well. I didn't get the chance to look at your sailor report until just now. Great analysis. Thank you, Dan. Really appreciate it, my friend. We saw you in the chat over there as well. So nomading, okay? It's becoming more and more of a hot topic. If you guys do want to learn more about digital nomading and why I'm personally trying to get an Argentina citizenship, well, we filmed a video on that last week. I'm going to try to make it as big as possible so you guys can see it. But if you do want to learn more about why we think Argentina is the best passport to get, you can see the thumbnail on screen. Doing my best to make it as big as possible. And I'm even going to put the link to that one in the chat so you guys can check that out. But again, you guys know we're doing a lot of nomading content over on this channel. So if you're enjoying it, please let us know. Smash the like button. That really does help us get these videos in front of the eyeballs of more and more people. And with all that said, I've got nothing else to say to the people tuning in. How about you, Pam?
No, I don't have something else to say.
Wish them a happy Saturday. Tell them to enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
And now in Spanish.
Disfruta el resto de tu semana.
You can see she's a lot faster in Spanish. All right, enjoy the rest of your semana.
Yes, semana.
All right, adios, amigos.